What's up, guys? This is Dan with Biohacking Explained, and today we're going to talk about which peptides are safe to combine in the same syringe. I will also be covering the dosages, the science behind these stacks, and which peptides you should never mix together. Now, before we jump into the specifics, let's go over some key rules. Most peptides that target the same specific pathway can usually be combined in the same syringe. Usually when you mix peptides that are incompatible, they'll be deemed ineffective and usually won't cause any harm. The main issue that we're trying to stay away from is loss of potency in the peptides. Always double check solubility and pH compatibility. I'll give you guys a quick example. So MOTC and retatrutide, you can't mix it together because once you mix it, it'll form a blob and it'll deem it useless. So I broke down each stack for a specific use case. We're going to start with healing and inflammation. So everybody's heard about the Wolverine stack, TB500 with BPC 157. This is a great stack. It actually compounds with each other. It's very powerful for tissue healing and recovery. You can do 250 micrograms of each daily for a conservative injection, or 500 if you want to be more aggressive. This could be injected subcutaneously near injury or even intramuscularly. Number 2, thymosin beta-4 with thymosin alpha-1. Thymosin beta-4 will help you with cellular regeneration, and thymosin alpha-1 will help you with autoimmune system support. The dosages I like to use with these is between 300 to 500 micrograms of each. I do it usually 2 times per week. Another very popular stack is GHK-Cu with BPC 157. Usually when you inject GHK on its own, it stings a little bit. So if you put BPC 157, it's going to calm the sting. This is going to help you for skin healing and anti-aging properties. The dosages for this range between 200 to 300 micrograms of each, and I would do this daily. The next one I'll be talking about is BPC 157 with SS31. This will help you with mitochondrial and soft tissue recovery. What I usually do when I'm taking this stack together is I do BPC 157 between 200 to 300 micrograms daily, and SS31 I'll do 1 to 2 milligrams. All right, let's move on now to the next use case, growth hormone peptides. All right, so one of the most popular stacks in this section is CJC 1295 with ipamorelin. I would do this no DAC. So when I start with this stack, I do 200 micrograms of each, and I start titrating up as we go week by week. I usually do it at night and blend it together and when I'm fasted. Another thing that you could stack ipamorelin with would be MOD 1-29, but I would not recommend this because I don't think it's that efficacious. The stack with ipamorelin and MOD, I would do 100 micrograms of each, and you could do this 1 to 3 times per day, fasted, 5 days on, 2 days off. Now for muscle building, there's a great stack with GHRP2 and GHRP6. Now, if you're seriously trying to optimize your growth hormone levels, you could do ipamorelin with tesamorelin, GRF, and CJC all together. Tesamorelin is the king of visceral fat loss, and all these things that you stack it with, all these peptides are going to work synergistically, optimizing your growth hormone levels. With tesamorelin, if you're stacking it with all these peptides together, I would go on the lower range of the dose. So I would do 1 milligram daily, and with CJC and the rest of the peptides, I would do 100 micrograms daily. 5 days on, 2 days off. Now, guys, I left the worst for last, sermorelin with hexarelin. To be honest, guys, I don't like this stack at all. That's why I left it for last, but I know some of you guys might be fans of it, so I put it in here. Sermorelin is a natural GH stimulator, but there are much better things out there like ipamorelin and tesamorelin, so I would just not waste my money with it, but it is what it is. And hexarelin is a synthetic analog. The dose you can do in this stack would be 100 micrograms of each daily, 5 days on, 2 days off. Usually with all of the growth hormones, I would do 5 days on, 2 days off. This will help you with water retention at the end. All right, guys, so now that we're finished with the growth hormone peptides, let's move on to immune system support. A great stack for this would be thymosin alpha-1 with BPC 157. You could also do thymosin alpha-1 with SS31. You could also do thymosin alpha-1 with thymalin. This is going to boost up your autoimmune resilience, especially after you had an illness or you're very stressed. So now I'm going to break down the dosages. So with thymosin alpha-1, I would do between 300 to 500 micrograms. BPC 157, I would do 250 to 300 micrograms. And SS31, 1 to 2 milligrams. This is the section that everybody's been waiting for, GLP-1s. What can we stack our fat loss peptides with? So in the same syringe, you could put cagrilintide with semaglutide, or semaglutide with tirzepatide, or retatrutide with tirzepatide, or tirzepatide with semaglutide. I know that it's a lot, guys, but keep in mind, you can mix all of these together because it's around the same pathway. For me, the most efficacious stack that I love to do is tirzepatide with retatrutide because in my experience, tirzepatide helps me more with that appetite suppression, while retatrutide will help me holding my muscle. So that's a great stack, guys. Now let's talk about dosages. You don't want to do the same dosage that you would do with one separately. So, if you're doing 2.5 milligrams of one, you don't want to do 2.5 and 2.5. You want to start with a half a dose and titrate from there. Also, guys, you got to keep in mind that some of these compounds are stronger than others. So with retatrutide, when I'm starting off, I start with 0.5 milligrams and then I start titrating up. With tirzepatide, I can start at 1.5 and start titrating up. So just keep in mind what you're doing in your dosages and start always low and titrate. If you start too high, you'll start feeling nauseated, have GI issues, and problems sleeping. So always start low, guys. Besides GLP-1 fat loss peptides, there's also peptides that target fat loss through other pathways. Now we're going to talk about those now. A very popular stack that is outside the range of the GLP-1s is fragment 176191 with AOD 9604. Both of these peptides target fat metabolism. The dose I would do with these would be 250 to 300 micrograms daily. Another really popular stack is MOTC with AOD 9604. And here you'll be combining mitochondrial health with fat loss. So with this stack, I would do MOTC 2 to 3 times per week, 5 to 10 milligrams, and AOD, you can do it daily, 2 to 300 micrograms. All right, guys, so this next section is for us biohackers that are interested in cognitive function. This is actually my favorite section right here. So you could do Syringe with epitalon, the pineal gland bioregulator. You could do N-acetyl with C-Max and N-acetyl with Syringe. Syringe reduces anxiety while Z-Max will boost your cognitive function. Epitalon helps with longevity and pineal gland support. The dosages I'm currently doing is 2 to 300 micrograms of each, and I usually stop once I see that the improvement has stopped. Guys, this is the last section, sexual peptides. This section is pretty limited. I'm going to run through them pretty quickly. So you could do oxytocin with PT141, PT141 with testosterone, and PT141 with testosterone and oxytocin. PT141 has been shown to boost your libido, while oxytocin will help with emotional bonding. That's why this stack is really good to try it out with your partner. Just keep in mind the dosages. Always start low. With PT141, you could do 100 to 200 micrograms and then titrate to 250 later on. And oxytocin, you could do 100 to 200. By starting low and titrating up, you're going to avoid side effects like nausea and vomiting. All right, so let's talk about the peptides that you should never mix together. So guys, like I mentioned before, you don't want to mix MOTC with retatrutide because it will make into a glob, deeming it useless. You just want to keep in mind that you don't want to mix peptides that have vastly different pH levels. If you do end up mixing peptides with different pH levels, the risk of precipitation will go up, while their efficaciousness will go down all the way to 0. You also want to avoid mixing GLP-1s with appetite suppressors in the same syringe. A quick example would be mixing GHRP6 with semaglutide or GHRP2 with semaglutide, because they're doing totally opposite mechanisms. If you mix copper peptides with acidic peptides, that's going to deactivate them completely. Just remember, guys, when in doubt, inject separately. Now, guys, remember, I do have a free longevity and Looksmaxxing peptide cheat sheet. Just comment below peptide and I'll send it to you. If you've enjoyed this video and found it helpful, comment below, like, and subscribe. And thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one.